Welcome, friends, to episode 270 of Color of Magic, your Magic Gaming podcast where we talk about all types of issues that affect gamers at and away from their gaming tables and computers. I'm your host, PowrDragn, and for 270 episodes, crazy number,
Yeah.
still got my main man, Brian Sonic, riding shotgun. How's it going, dude?
270, not just my episode count, but probably closer to my weight than I want to admit. Also,
Hey, dude, hey, it's just part of getting older, my dog. Like, I caught myself having to go up a pant size not that long ago. Just, I'm like, 32 ain't cutting it no more. Like,
no,
well, it was cutting it, which is why I had to go up from
exactly.
32. It's rough out here sometimes, man. Oh my gosh, man, this episode's going to be crazy because we have stuff with local stores and secret layers. We got stuff going on with TikTok. We've got video game stuff, Magic Pro Tour stuff. There's like all kinds of things in this episode. But before we get into it, don't forget, if you want to support the show, go over to patreon.com/color of magic. Give us a little bit of love. Help us keep going. You get a shout out on here, just like one of our newest patrons, Finney's Fosters. And I don't know, like, that sounds like it's Australian, but I know all my Australian friends got mad because Foster's is not Australian for beer, and they did not like that. So I don't know. But either way, thank you for supporting the show, Finney's Fosters. But all right, let's get into our lead story because this made a little bit of news earlier this week. There were a couple of announcements that Wizards of the Coast is going to be sending what they're describing as a secret lair test drop to local game stores. Now,
A super secret lair.
Yeah, I don't know what really makes it a test because I feel like we've done this before early on with a couple of random ones. But this is going to involve mechanically unique content. And that's kind of been one of the gripes about Secret Lair, right? Is when it's mechanically unique and you can only get it through Secret Lair once it sells out. It's not available forever till they make the universes within version of it, 6 months, 9 months later, whatever. And now we have fewer of those in packs. So there's kind of like a twofold thing going on here. So there was an initial announcement that Blake Rasmussen posted, but then there was another one, and I'm going to go ahead and read this here so I have the exact details. But this was posted on the WPN website on here's how the test is going to work. WPN stores will purchase the non-foil edition of the Secret Lair drop from their preferred distributor. Both foil and non-foil editions will still be available on the regular Secret Lair drop on the website. And
so
then,
not really available for most people.
Yeah, probably. And then a few weeks later, WPN stores will sell that drop that they purchased from their distributors at their store. And there were kind of a lot of questions here, right? The first was why only non-foil, right?
Yeah,
That's a little bit
that
of
was
a
my
thing.
first question.
And the other is the timing, right? Why a couple of weeks after it's available online? Do they have to wait to sell it? The only thing I could come to with my understanding of what I know about the business and whatever was that it's probably a logistics issue on the first one, on the foils. Because if they go to stores and some are damaged and then you have to replace them and then you don't have any spares to send to people or whatever, that could be a whole thing. I don't know how much they're planning to print of each thing or whatever. So that's got its own issue. As far as the timing, the reason I think that is if they were to pre-print these, which they would have to if they're going to send some to retailers, so they would know the quantities and everything else, and those would start shipping out, they would possibly be arriving in people's hands that order them online at roughly the same time people could go buy them from their stores. I think that is the plan. Now, again, I don't know either of these things to be 100% fact. The people I know and could ask didn't know anything about it, and the one or two people I think that would know probably can't tell me. So,
Right.
I'm just speculating based on things
If
I
they
know.
told you, they'd have to kill you.
Yeah, that might be the case, honestly. Somebody might get in trouble. So sometimes sources come through, sometimes sources don't. This time they didn't. But I do think that it's at least reasonable to try, in the sense that there's always been this underlying belief, which, by the way, the good game stores I know of have never actually said this. The good game store owners I've known for years, whatever, had big successful stores. But there was a belief that secret layers are taking significant sales away from local game stores. Well, now they're going to get to participate and we're going to find out. You
And
know?
that can't logically be true because again, you can't get the secret layer in most cases.
Well, yeah,
So
but there's also part of this too that some of the draw of secret layers is because they're rare and you can't get them at your local store, right? And the other is some stores are going to go out and will buy these secret layers and are probably going to either get stuck with some of them or possibly lose some amount of money because their market isn't going to want them, right? It's just the way things are.
yeah,
So we'll find out. I mean, at least they're going to be there. But the other cool thing, there was an also a follow-up announcement that they're going to have the I guess we'll call them universes within because I think that's the term Wizards uses for cards that have been you can't mechanically unique before. This in this case being the D&D movie promos or not even promos, D&D movie secret layers now are getting in-universe character versions that you'll be able to get at your local game stores for free. Like you go and participate in an event and that's just a participation thing. So they're going to run this for 7 weeks. So you'll have a chance to get all the different cards. This one kind of surprised me. And I don't know how I feel about it because part of me is like, sweet, you're doing something to support the local game stores. Awesome. You're giving players a cool card for free for just participating. Show up, play a draft, do whatever for the event. Just get this for participating. Seems pretty cool. But if this becomes the regular thing, how do you feel if you're one of the people that bought the secret layer? That's kind of where I stopped and went, man, I don't know. Like, now, granted, it's long enough because those came out, hell, a year plus ago, I think. So it's been a minute. So it's not like you didn't get your money's worth or whatever in that amount of time. And you still have the version that have the like art that looks like the characters from the movie. And, there's all that. So they do still have some exclusivity to them. But yeah, I don't know, dude. How do you feel about these two things, either separately or in conjunction? Because these are both kind of interesting efforts.
I mean, I'm glad they're still doing stuck it into the movie because depending on who you ask, it was either the best thing D&D related they've ever seen or a colossal failure. So clearly, somebody somebody at Wizards leans toward a really cool thing
Yeah, that's true. I
because it's
mean,
definitely far, millions of times better than the previous D&D movie. But I guess they probably didn't make the millions, billions they thought they were going to make off of it. So I'm sure whoever does at Hollywood accounting is always weird. So I guess in their eyes, it may be considered a failure. But I think everybody that saw it that plays D&D and or Magic, for what I heard, actually enjoyed it. So
yeah, I'd be curious to know what the merchandise around it or promotional stuff was also worth. Because I feel like I've started to see a little more of that the longer the movie's been out, and they've kind of
yeah,
come back to the license and made some more things, and I'm seeing it on people's stuff and on their backpacks and different. So like, there's still some money being made there from the marketing side. So I'd be curious what that is and if that is enough to make it worthwhile from all the licensing and everything
yeah.
else. Because it was a pretty fun movie, and I'm with you. It was definitely better than anything we've had before.
And I think the last article I saw was saying, they feel like it killed Renee Jean Page's career because I guess he either didn't do or couldn't film Bridgerton while he was doing that. And I'm like, maybe if they were expecting crossover because it's set in medieval times, they were probably destined to be disappointed because while he may be wearing some of the same clothing, those two products really aren't targeting the same audience. Anybody that thought they were was probably destined to
Yeah,
be disappointed.
and I do think this kind of falls in the space of coming out of the pandemic, and there were supposed to be a bunch of things that aligned between like video games and movies and card products and whatever,
Yeah.
and it just didn't happen for multiple reasons. So I don't know. I think it needs a lot taken into consideration. But yeah, this is a cool idea. I don't hate it. I think it's cool that stores get to participate in this kind of thing. I think it's cool getting cards into players' hands. These are like some of the better participation cards you can get, which is
Definitely.
also cool. So yeah, I hope it works. I hope it brings a lot of people into local game stores if nothing else. Everybody gets some sweet cards. Like this feels like a win for the most part. I'm not going to say all the way around. We'll see
Yeah.
with the secret layer how it plays out, but it at least feels well intentioned with some reasonable upside. I'll say
Yeah.
that. But we'll see how it all plays out. But with that being said, let's take a step onto the soapbox. And man, I feel like I have to make this rant like once a year, but why not? We're starting the year.
Yeah.
Dude, like, we just got to get off of worrying about how everybody else games. Like, and I swear, it's like, it doesn't matter what type of game. And we're talking board games, video games, card games, whatever. Like, hell, I saw people complain about role playing, about how these sessions are stupid and blah. It's like, if that's what your group wants to do, then you and your group play the way you want to play. Like, I'm not in your sessions. What does that have to do with me? Right? You want to go play Vintage, or you want to go play Commander, or you want to go play Popper, or whatever, Oathbreaker, whatever. Like, cool. I don't have to play. Like, I mean, like, now there are some small times where, like, maybe you're at a small town with a small local store and everybody only plays one format that you don't enjoy playing. Like, I could see how you'd have some animosity,
Yeah.
but don't be mad at them. They're just enjoying the game. If they just don't enjoy it the way you do, that's unfortunate. But when I see it online, it's even crazier. You know, we've talked before, like, why people get mad that folks will play a game on an easier mode or something. It's like, who cares? Like, unless they said something you would have never known. It was at their house. They're playing privately. Who cares? Let them have the easy mode, right? If you want to, hell, when I get on, I play the junk levels on first person shooters with the difficulty because I'm crap at them. We're probably never going to play in the same games if you're good at it anyway. So being mad that I play at the lower levels is kind of dumb. Be glad I'm playing it all and giving your game some money so you get the sweet things you want at the higher levels, right? Like, I don't understand any of it when I see people griping. And I know you probably see it more than I do, you know, making actual content in the video game space more often.
Yeah, and it is, like you said, frustrating. I mean, I guess you could, some of the Souls stuff I get because, yeah, okay, the whole, I guess, point of the Souls like genre is that it's supposed to be crushingly hard, but the downside of it is some people will never get to beat the game if they play on a difficulty level. And some of them do have a good story that more people would like to enjoy. So again, yeah, let people enjoy things is kind of where I come down on it. I saw
Yeah, I'm
one
with
the
you.
other day where somebody posted their NBA 2K upon, like, literally posted their gamer tag. Hey, you are trash at the game. You played off ball and you had these settings on. So that's how I know you're trash. They put those settings in the game for a reason. Some of us, have jobs where we don't get to play NBA 2K 24 hours a day, so we use the different shooting and play off ball defense. And you really let people enjoy. And I think the person was complaining won the game. So again, what are you kvetching about? Really?
Yeah, that's another good point. When you're already winning, what does it matter? You know, like, and one of the things we've said before on the show is like, you almost never see the best players at whatever the game type is, or the most prominent people or whatever, complaining about folks playing the game differently. It almost never comes from that level of person. It doesn't matter
Because
if
they
it's
know that, and again, I would say, when I talk about aimbotting, cheating, any of that, that's a different thing
sure,
than playing the
sure.
game on a lower difficulty setting. If you're using hacks, that's a whole different. I'm talking about settings that exist. For example, NBA has gone back and forth on shooting, and there's a setting you can use where, provided you take an open shot, you will stand a higher chance of hitting the shot. Now, there's another setting where they say, hey, this is for people, that again are consider themselves to be pros at the game, where, yeah, if you hit that button, basically it I guess lessens the window. So you have to shoot the
Yeah,
ball perfectly for it to go in. And if you can do that, hey, more power to you. But most people can't do that. That's why they have the others. And some people also realize that, you know what? If you use the lower setting, but you do a vintage Kobe and take 75 shots, 20 of them are going in, you'll still be okay.
sure. But and you know, and I get that if I'm also playing competitive. Like if I'm gonna do on the rank thing or whatever, like yeah, it's gonna be set to higher difficulties because this is for the best players and that's fine. Right. So competitively, it's whatever, right? You play
I think
whatever
you can
settings are
still
necessary.
play that setting on competitive, and there's, people are testing it
Okay,
both
yeah, then
ways,
that's
trying to
fine
figure
then.
out, because there
But
are offenses you can run where, hey, you take enough shots to where some of them will go in, but you still, in most cases, need to have an open guy or be really good at, Some people, like Kevin Durant once said, basically he'll need to see the rim for about a fraction of a second. And if he sees it for a fraction of a second, even if somebody gets a hand up, he's still going to hit the shot. Because in less than a tenth of a second, he saw all of the rim he needed to see to be able to hit that shot. And some people, I'm sure, on NBA 2K are the same way, where if they see the rim for a second, they're going to hit the button at the right time.
Oh, yeah. But I just think in general, coming back to what you said, where it's just like, let people enjoy the game how they want a game.
Yeah.
Like let's be happier that people are at least enjoying the game or genre or whatever that I'm in more than being mad of how they're enjoying it. Because if they're not hurting anybody,
right,
and it's not costing you any money or time or whatever, then like cool. Just be happy they're enjoying it. Like it's weird to be mad about it. I don't know. It
it really
doesn't
is.
make a lot of sense.
And as I said, that's different from hacking or aimbotting or any of that stuff. Yeah, that's
Well, yeah,
cheating.
but
That
then that's
needs to
just
go.
cheating at the higher level at the higher difficulties.
Right.
Right? Like that's a whole different thing. But all right, your turn.
We didn't discuss this. We didn't plan these, but they kind of go together. I'm in the shooter genre also, and we've been telling you about Marvel Rivals, and I think it launched with 20 million, has still retained almost 90% of that after being out a month. Season 1 just launched last week. They're dropping. We're getting all 4 of the Fantastic Four at some point. We got Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic at launch. Some point over the next few weeks, we'll get Human Torch and the Thing. And the developers have said that they plan to release a hero every roughly month and a half, which is a crazy pace. Because as many people have pointed out, 4 heroes in a season is what Overwatch does, is more than Overwatch does in a year. So, hey, Overwatch, your response, and the response is, guys, we got some different color skins for your favorite characters. Is like, come on, are y'all gonna fight back? This is getting really, really embarrassing for those of us that would still like to try to continue to play both games. I'm not gonna lie to you. I haven't touched Overwatch since Rivals launched. A lot of people I've been talking to that I play with feel the same. And again, we want there to be competition. We want the games to push each other and make each other better, because that's how things get better, through competition. But right now, it's not a competition; it's a curb stomping. We'd
Well,
like Overwatch to fight back. So far, we're seeing nothing.
it's kind of interesting because in the products for like League of Legends and Teamfight Tactics, you already have a lot of those models and designs and whatever done, right? You're just
Yeah,
porting them to another game. In some ways, you kind of have that for Marvel too, because they have all types of things they've made for a million things. I'm sure somewhere they have a vault with all the stuff already done, or at least
yeah.
mostly done, and you just have to fit it to the engine that you have for Rivals.
And
So,
a lot of them have been in video games. Like I mentioned, Captain America. Parts of his kit come from Capcom's
oh
fighting
sure,
games. They got
yeah.
Charging Star, Shield Slash. Those things are in there because they're fun. And I'm telling you, if you've played any of those games, you can pretty much pick up Captain America, and you're already gonna know a couple of the moves for all intents and purposes.
Well, but that's the thing, right? Like they have that advantage over every other game in that genre, that
Yeah,
they already have a library of stuff. And they don't have to design new characters. You just have to figure out how to make their abilities work within the engine they built for Rivals. Because,
exactly.
dude, there are so many obscure ass characters in Marvel that they could just keep digging up. You got your Howard the Ducks and
Right.
collectors and, just random people. You could just make characters forever. Hell,
Howard's got a daughter that I just found out about. Did you see that?
no, but that's kind of crazy.
Apparently Howard and Darcy from the Thor movies, played by Kat Dennings, apparently in one of the universes, they got married and have a kid named Birdie, who is going to be in, I think, the new season of What If, and possibly may appear in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point. So,
Yeah, not to mention that, right? You have all the what if things, right? Because you
right.
have all the different versions of Wolverine you could have appear in the game at some point.
Yep.
Various, like, we talked off show, like various Captain Americas that are
Yep.
available.
Into the
Mhm.
Spider Verse. Oh my God, so
Yep.
many. All the
All the
like
Spider-Mans
just
from
all
that.
the
Yeah,
for
it's
those
just
of us that are listening and not watching. I'm doing the Spider-Man pointing at everything meme.
but yeah, there's just so many things that they have available. And again, your Alpha Flights of the world, right? Like these really
Hey,
obscure
good
teams and
call
characters.
out.
And
You
those
mentioned
and that's
West
like,
Coast Avengers on the
yeah, you're
pre-show. West
talking
Coast Avengers.
5, 10 new characters just from one new license you're introducing to the game.
Right.
Like, hell, the West Coast Avengers could be a year of releases in the game, right? One every
Yeah.
month for all of 2025 if they wanted to.
And they're doing a Wonder Man TV show, so it's I think it's one of the reasons we're getting Fantastic Four is because the Fantastic Four movie is coming
Yep.
out this year.
So yeah, I think if that's just one of those things I don't know if any other game in their genre is going to be able to compete with. And that's a huge competitive advantage for them.
Yeah, but still, put out new things. Put out
Sure.
new,
Sure.
do because again, you got a game, you got a support unless you're just gonna lay down and quit when it feels like or maybe figure out how to put back or start working on some of the stuff you promised at the beginning, like hey, destructible environments, player versus environment stuff. People would still love to get those
Man, make a
things,
new mode like the I saw in Call of Duty. I watched this dude who plays a prop hunt. Like,
right?
that is the wildest thing that's even a mode, but it's kind of fun to watch. So I
Yeah.
bet it's fun to play. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. But that being said, time to talk about what we learned this week because there's two very interesting things that I think people would be interested in. So, what are you tackling this week?
Yeah, Hassan Piker, noted Twitch streamer, rebel rouser. He did a story on the top of the California fires. Apparently, there is an incarcerated firefighter camp. That's part of it. Is that I just found out that
Mm-hmm.
incarcerated firefighter camp is a thing. And they said, obviously when they're not fighting fires, they're kind of just, they're extremely bored, a lot of downtime. So he asked for people to send them video games and things, and they are now inundated. They got so many video games where they go to use them all. So they said, hey, they're giving a list of other firefighting departments that can also use things. But again, just great for him for mentioning that, doing that story. Because as I said, I had no idea incarcerated firefighters was a thing. That is wild. They mentioned how they are obviously very underpaid, unappreciated, but they're out there, doing the work and helping California, hopefully, helping people save homes and cases and other things. And so,
Yeah,
yeah,
no
great on.
doubt.
And
I'll
for
say it's
anybody going through that, definitely we are, we are trying to anybody, as I said, if you want to donate, please do that. Not just to the firefighters, but to people that lost homes. Because believe it or not, everybody that has a home in the Los Angeles area is not rich and is not a celebrity.
no, most of them aren't.
Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, to your point, I saw a lot of charity stuff's doing very well right now. So, if you can help and support, they are trying to get stuff out to people. I saw the Palisades, I think Convention Center
yeah,
had posted they were a staging area and they'd gotten a bunch of stuff. So they're directing people over to the next city now. So it's a whole thing, man. Like, and I'm not going to get political here, but I will say this. This is a time, just like when we had the hurricanes in Florida and the floods out in North Carolina, like, this is not the time to be worrying about shoulda, woulda, coulda, whatever. This is a time to help people, right? There are people that literally, some have lost their lives.
yeah,
If nothing else, they have lost their homes and their livelihoods and everything else. Who knows, pets and all kinds of things. Like, now is not the time for that. A month from now, whatever, once it's resolved and everything, cool. Go do, say whatever you want to. But when people are in distress, that type of rhetoric or whatever, all it does is cause more problems for the people on the ground, the people that need help, the people that are trying to help solve the problems. Like, they don't need that right now. On a more positive note, and this is one that I think is going to surprise people, and we're about to say something some people probably aren't going to like. But Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 are both selling insanely well.
yeah,
And like, not even like, oh, kind of good, like all time good still.
yeah,
So as of December, Grand Theft Auto 5 was ranked the third highest selling title for PS5, both in North America and in Europe. And Red Dead Redemption 2 was the highest selling PS4 game in those regions during the same time frame. That basically means they need to be in no hurry to put out Grand Theft Auto 6.
Because they are both still the best example in their genre. You Grand Theft Auto, you could argue that maybe, hey, that's not your cup of tea. You like some other open world game. Western games, there's nothing that compares to Red Dead Redemption 2 other than Red Dead Redemption 1.
Yeah.
I love Western games, but really, we don't get that many, and we certainly don't get any that are at the level of Red Dead Redemption other than Red Dead Redemption. Oh, by the way, there's Red Dead Redemption Online, and nobody else has any kind of Western experience online that's better than that. So, as you said, no reason for them to be in a hurry.
Yeah. I mean, because think about it, right? You get Grand Theft Auto 6 at some point in the future.
Right.
Like, if it comes out, because we know it's going to be overhyped, no matter how good it is, and it might be great, it's still going to be overhyped, right? So, but let's say it's not good. Well, now you've lost all your sales, all your momentum. You've damaged the franchise somewhat, and now you're not getting Grand Theft Auto 6 or probably Grand Theft Auto 5 sales. So just let 5 cook. Like, what else would you know what I
I'm
mean? Like,
trying to envision how bad Grand Theft Auto 6 would have to be to not get to
I
not
don't
get.
know.
It had to be pretty bad.
Yeah. But
Because
again,
you're going to get at least that ridiculous first week of sales. Then I guess copies will start coming back to people,
sure.
but it will still have made an insane amount that first
But
week.
it's not even so much about the game being bad. It's just if it doesn't live up to people's hype at this point, right? Because you get those people that are unreasonable. They have their mind made up. There's going to be these 20, 30 things, and it's going to be this good, and then it's just not. And it's like, well, because you made it to be something it wasn't, you know? But realistically, I mean, if your game's the third best selling basically worldwide on the platform,
Right.
why, like, that's just an easy money train. You know what
And
I mean?
compare that to the games that, like most games of multiplayer are on the Call of Duty Madden annual release cycle, and they struggle.
Yeah.
Every other year, it's like, oh my God, this is trash. How'd you release this? So you don't push any of your favorite games into that cycle or anything close to that cycle.
I just find it interesting because if I'm them, even if we are ready, I probably don't even start doing promotions to launch it, which will be, a couple of months after you start running the promotions, till we probably drop to like number 5.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if the money's still good and you're the third best selling thing on the platform, like why are you in a hurry? Take all your time to make Grand Theft Auto 6 as pristine as it can be on launch.
And by the way, those two games and NBA and WWE 2K, same company. Just try to wrap your head around all the money they are rolling around in right now.
That is pretty wild to have that much of the market under one brand. That rarely happens. So like, just golf clap to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like congrats cuz that's a rarity to get that many titles. Not just that many titles that are that good and sell for that long. Like that's super rare. I don't even know if I could think of a time where that's happened outside of maybe some Nintendo Mario type situation. I don't know if anything's else even come close to that. Like that's crazy.
It's hard to think of anybody else, again, like you said, that's not something like Nintendo or Sega where they make the console and the and all the games. I'm trying to
Yeah. So good on them. I nothing but love there.
EA would get there if they can make any any single player games or shooters that did
Yeah,
anything.
they're just shooters in sports games these days. But all right, let's get into a couple of topics because we're gonna cover the rounds on this one. All right, so we all have heard by now that there's a good chance, hell, probably by the time a week from now when we get back on, there may not be a TikTok, at least not in the U.S.
Yeah, I think TikTok announced they're shutting it down in the U.S. on Sunday.
So there you go. So unless there's an 11th hour save, there ain't nothing. So that being said, there's been a lot of silliness on TikTok lately of people doing fun thank yous to their Chinese spies that have set up their For You page. I've seen some Chinese dudes doing videos as though they're the Chinese spy and like sending last messages to people. Like it's a whole thing. Like everybody's just embracing the absurdity of the whole thing. But with that, there are a lot of serious things where people are saying, hey, I follow you on TikTok. Where should I go to follow you? Or if you're not going to make content here, where you're going to make it at? And kind of at the same time, we got those announcements from Meta that people didn't like. So now people are like, well, I don't want to go to Instagram, right? I kind of can use Facebook Shorts or whatever, or YouTube Shorts or whatever, but like otherwise, there's not really many options. Well, since a lot of people also started migrating to Blue Sky, which by the way now has already 27.5 million people. So they really are getting like a million people a week or whatever now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But Mark Cuban, of all people, and we've talked about him before because he has his cost plus drugs and all this other stuff that he's trying to make a play to be the good guy's billionaire, I guess. So
If
no
such a thing is
Luigi's,
possible.
no Luigi's in his future, right? But he posted a thing on TikTok because people were asking him where he's going to post stuff, and he said, "You know what? If somebody wants to build a TikTok replacement on the AT protocol, which is what Blue Sky is based on, I will back it. You give me a minimal viable product, I'll put money behind it." And everybody went, "I'm a developer." like,
Right?
and good for them, right? I mean, a dude's gonna and ain't like he ain't got the money. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
if anybody's gonna back it. But then I found out this morning, actually, when I was putting the finishing notes on this, that there is one already in the works. There's a independent developer that's making one called Flashes, which probably needs some name change because Flashes is not the best thing for something you're gonna be putting pictures on. Just saying. Just saying.
I'm mad that didn't occur to me first.
Well, they're also working on one for video that the guy wants to call Blue Screen, which also not great. But
Right?
like, some people you're not good at naming things. I get it, but the idea is that Flashes is going to work kind of like a cross between TikTok and Instagram. It will allow both videos and photos, and it will basically draw them. Like you'll have one account on the AT protocol because again, you already have a Blue Sky account, or if you don't, you can sign up for one, and then it'll draw pictures and videos into that so you can use it just like you would like a TikTok or whatever or an Instagram, or you can just use Blue Sky as Blue Sky, which is kind of cool. And then if you have comments and things, they'll show up in both places and you can link things and all that. So you can have it all basically in one platform. You can have your TikTok, Instagram replacement alongside your Twitter replacement all in one place. And it'll be independent and nobody owns the rights to the algorithms and all that stuff. So yeah, kind of an interesting idea. Now, I don't know if Cuban has found out about Flashes and is putting money behind them or not, or if they reached out to him like, "Hey, we already have a thing. Here's some demo video stuff we already have." If they're smart, I would, because why not have him as a backer? But yeah, kind of interesting, dude. I don't know. It feels like things are happening very quickly right now in this
Yeah.
space.
I just wrote about this, and it's wild because every time I can think of where a social media thing has gone away, it's pretty much been allowed to just run its course the way we saw, MySpace kind of fade away, and we're seeing, other medias, like I'm trying to think of a good example, but like Twitter, ran into numerous landmines, which kind of led to the rise of Blue Sky. This is the first time I can remember where I've seen the government be like, "Hey, yeah, stop using that thing. We're gonna ban that thing." So you have to stop using it, which is gonna be wild. It's just I'm like many people curious to see what, and I just also found out because my wife has been I say doing research. She loves TikTok as much as the rest of us do, and apparently TikTokers are posting they ain't get paid today. I guess today is when their checks would come in, and they're not
All right.
hitting. So this is wild. And I don't
Yeah.
know how you would even go about, especially if they're not going to be operating in the U.S. I would imagine good luck suing a Chinese company.
Yeah, they ain't gonna be able to
States.
send you money or whatever because you
Oh,
probably can't use the banks or whatever anymore for business
so
purposes.
that's just a jacked up situation, and it just feels like not. It feels like it just seems this could have been handled way better by our government because they know how. Or well, actually, I think about Zuckerberg trying to explain Facebook to Congress. Maybe they don't know
They
how many
don't know.
people make their living off of TikTok, but man, this
And
feels like
again,
it could have
there's
been handled
there's
better.
all types of reasons that people believe it's happening, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of people who have been able to make money, supplement their income, whatever, from some of these social media apps, and a lot of them are on TikTok.
Yeah.
right? People have found ways to make their life better because of that platform. Now, again, some of them will move over to like YouTube Shorts or whatever, Instagram. Like they will figure out how to carry a chunk of their audience. But man, it's tough, right? Because this affects a lot of people. There's a lot of creators in our space, where they're talking about magic or video games or whatever that do a lot of content through there, do
Yeah.
entertain a lot of people, make a lot of money, and that's going to go away for them.
Game studios too have done a lot of
Yeah.
stuff on TikTok and seen great benefits from it. Deep Silver, when they launched or relaunched Saints Row, they mentioned that doing some of the stuff they did with TikTok helped them sell about, or you basically generate 1 million users within the first like 3 months, because they saw how much gaming content was on TikTok and they were very aggressive in using it to promote their game.
And there's tons of other apps I've seen like Lemon 8, Red Note, whatever, which by the way, both of those one's
They're
owned by
Chinese,
TikTok
I think,
by
and
the
so
yeah, one is owned by the parent company that owns TikTok. The other is an actual Chinese company in Red Note. So I'm just like, I don't know why
yeah,
those would be the ones you would jump to, because if not by the end of the year, we'll probably be dealing with the same thing next year on those two apps. I
yeah.
would think, right? If this is this much of a priority that we got to deal with TikTok, then like we would just be running it back again shortly. So you probably want to explore one of the other apps. And there's several I've checked out. There's one called Neptune that looks potentially promising that's supposed to launch soon. There's a bunch of others. So at some point maybe we'll talk about them as they pop off and start doing the thing. But yeah, it's a weird time, man. But there's solutions, there's things coming, and if anything, this stands to be good news for Blue Sky or anybody who's already invested in Blue Sky in any way. We saw an announcement from Wizards of the Coast on their pro tours. So we know that the three upcoming pro tours will happen at the three Magic Cons. So that's good. And we'll see that Chicago, Vegas, Atlanta, all will have their pro tours events, which is good. But then alongside that announcement, and I need to get these details right because there's some names that I was not familiar with, but they are changing the regional organizers for some of the tournaments. And the US looks like it's going to stay mostly the same, but they're changing them for the Australia, New Zealand region. I don't know what we call that, you know, but that
The
says
Aussie
here.
Oi
Oh, go
Oi
ahead.
region, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have no idea, but it says like Good Games, which is the current name of the company running them right now, will be turning that over to Let's Play Games after the May 11th event. So after that, things turn over to the new company there. It has dates for your different regional championships and what you qualify for. And then in South America and Brazil, it looks like you had two different organizers that will now just be under Devere Brazil, taking over for City Class and Magic Sir. So they will just be one organization running all those stuff. Looks like all the events are still happening. They posted four different regionals, already have their dates assigned, and there's one still to be determined. So looks like for the most part it's going to still be business as usual, but definitely some changes, and I don't know if that means anything or what it potentially means. Like I just something interesting to note that things are happening around the world. For all we know, that could just as well be the companies running them, maybe having some financial issues, can't handle certain things, maybe staffing issues, maybe Wizards wasn't happy with how they ran some of the stuff. Maybe they don't have access to certain things or certain areas that the new people do. Who knows? Like, so I'm not going to speculate on any of that. I try not to on those things because I don't want to get people riled up one way or the other. But it is worth noting that there are things changing, especially when you talk about South America, where there's been issues recently in the past, and
Yeah.
people have been concerned as far as it goes for Magic. But something that people should be aware of. The next thing, Brian, this is where it's a little inside baseball, but I think it does matter and is worth mentioning. But Diamond Comic Distributors filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Which is just wild because, if you're old head comic book and gaming people like us, that's, how long they been doing this with.
Oh, dude, they got the exclusive license for like Marvel, DC, whatever. Back, hell, 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, I have to say the whole time I've been reading comic books feels like.
Yeah, and to put in perspective, outside of some smaller, I think, independent offerings and stuff, they pretty much have, I believe, 90% plus of the market.
Yeah.
Everybody orders from them for their comic stores. The reason I bring it up though for our show is that they are the parent company of Alliance Game Distributors, which also is one of the largest hobby game distributors in North America. So that's kind of a big deal for your local game stores when you're considering, if they get board games, Magic, whatever, it's coming. Some number of their things are probably coming from Alliance. Now, don't get me wrong, there's what I would call probably four-ish other major companies for game distribution in the US, but Alliance is pretty much one of those, like, if you're in the business, you know the name, they do all their presentations, they've got warehouses across the US, that whole thing. Now, with that being said, I don't think that Alliance is going to have a huge issue because one of the things that's always a big deal in business is having licenses to sell and distribute some of the hottest titles. And they have that in spades. So they're always going to be able to make money selling Magic, Pokemon, WizKids products. Certain board game things are exclusive with them, whatever. So there's going to be money there. I don't think that's so much the problem. It's that the parent company just got into a lot of debt, almost $40 million with a lot of
That
different creditors.
that is absolutely classified as a lot of debt.
Yeah, that's a big chunk of money. Now, that being said, I learned a term today related to this. And they already have an offer from a company, Universal Distribution. They made a $39 million, which basically eats up all the debt that needs to be handled immediately, plus a little extra. They made, and this is the phrase I have never heard, a stalking horse bid. I was like, what? Because that sounds like some old, 1700s type thing.
I
I'm
actually
like,
have a restraining order on a horse. It can't come within 75 yards of me. It's,
yeah, like, I'm like, what is it?
bad
Well,
deal.
so I can educate people. It's basically when you make an offer on the debt for a company, and anybody who wants to make an offer basically has to come in higher than that. And then you are at least guaranteed refunds on certain fees and whatever and whatnot for being the first in on this debt bid and setting it at such a high mark. Why it's called stalking horse, I don't know. I didn't get to go that deep yet, but I at least now know what it means. So now you know what it means. So you learned something today, which is great.
The double
Yeah,
learning.
exactly. I can give them one of these. There we go. We learned something, right?
Used to get
So,
all the great stock tips on the board. That's good stuff.
but yeah, so this is kind of crazy. Like, we don't normally see this with companies of this level, especially in the game industry, but Diamond apparently got in deep with a lot of different companies. They owe some very serious bills to some very big names.
And of course, you figure because it's Diamond, you figure like, hey, we're Diamond. We're obviously going to be good for it. I'm sure a lot of people would loan them money or cut them slack. It's Diamond. Where are they going to go? They're going to go into bankruptcy, unfortunately.
Yeah. And some of this, who knows? I don't know, haven't seen the numbers, and the people I know they're still working there probably are not going to talk to me about the debt specifics. But
Unless you can put a bid in.
yeah, exactly. That's the only way that's going to happen. But this is the type of thing where you see where they overorder on some things, right? But you're overordering on everything for months and months at a time. That adds up very quickly, right? You have overages sitting in warehouses. You have to deal with processing all that stuff. Some things with certain companies have returnability. Some things don't. Like, there's a bunch of ways. Because I know some people are saying, how do you get that much in debt? It's like, it's very possible when you're dealing with the number of companies they deal with and stuff that's coming and going. You make 5 or 6 wrong big purchases and you're already on a downhill slide if you don't recover quickly. So better management, maybe. There's other things that probably could have helped that to not be 40 million, right? Or 39 million, whatever the number is. But yeah, it's again, I don't think it's concerning. I don't think any of your local game stores are going to go out of business. But this is one of those things that if you hear chatter or hear what it's about, this is what they're referencing. So
Yeah.
kind of want to put that on people's radar because the thing most game things are probably not going to talk about because either probably don't know or they just don't have that experience in the business. But yeah, I've now educated people on some things behind the scenes. So there you go. But let's get to the dinner table here because this should be a fun. This one's just fun, and I don't know what your answer is going to be here. But Aether Drift is coming for Magic, and we know it's all about racing and cars and big vehicles and whatever. So, Brian, my question to you today is if you could have any, we'll call it fantasy vehicle, doesn't matter what it is, in the game, what would you want to see brought to Magic?
I'm trying to think. What are there fantasy
I mean, it could
vehicles?
be fantasy, it could be comic books, it could be whatever. Like
I
some
mean, I'm sure they'll
vehicle.
probably have something that references probably the Batmobile, maybe Knight Rider.
That would be kind of cool.
I would see a couple of those probably being surely if they're doing classic references, the Batmobile is probably I guess the most famous or one of the most famous fictional cars.
Man, that would be kind of cool to get as a secret layer, right? Of just like pile of fantasy vehicles or comic book vehicles or movie vehicles, whatever. You know, Smokey and the Bandit's car could be in
Oh,
there.
that one I feel. Of course, I don't know. You never know who's a fan of what. Maybe the Bandit will make an appearance. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know because I actually thought about this for myself. I'm like, man, I don't know, like what, like Knight Rider was one that immediately came to mind.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm like that sort of makes sense. But man, I was like, were there any vehicles that were like made for racing? Because like people don't remember. Was it called like Knight Rider 2000, where you had like
I
the
remember
the
it, but
team of Knight Rider
yeah, it
cars?
just.
It was weird, man. It was like Knight Rider meets Power Rangers or
Well,
whatever.
I
It's
mean, Knight Rider is one of those shows where when I was 10, I loved it. And there's a channel on Roku that still shows it. And I go back and try to watch it now. It's like, my God, I was 10.
yeah, it was
Because
pretty bad.
now it's just, Dukes of Hazzard, same way. It's like, now it's almost unwatchable. Because it just, yeah, you realize Hazard County only has one dirt road.
Oh,
They're
dude,
just going around the same circle.
there's so many products, and especially when it comes to television, that we watched growing up that were definitely a product of their time,
Yeah.
and they just don't hold up. And several of these things fit that category. But yeah, I don't know. For me, the Knight Rider car I think would be pretty sweet. I mean, I don't really need any like Transformers vehicles because we kind of know we can do that, right? We've already seen those. There's probably some like, oh, you know what? The A Team van. I get that one.
I'll
I don't
be
know.
amazed if they do the A-Team
I
van.
don't. I don't know if we could get that in a racing set because it doesn't really race. It just gets beat up a lot as far as.
Well, and again, I don't know the rules of the Aether Drift racing. Is it like Death Race, where literally you can run the other cars off of the road to get to the end of the race?
I
Or
haven't got that deep yet to know. I just know that they're racing for a goal and a prize, and but I don't know.
it's
Maybe.
Magic, so I would assume killing your opponent is an option. So yeah, that could put the A-Team van in. Running
Oh,
people off of the road is.
you know what would be a good secret layer for this is that the twisted metal stuff would be really cool if they could do that as a secret layer because you had that movie come out what a year ago, year and a
Or
half
a
ago.
TV show.
Yeah, so that'd be kind of fun if you can get that license. That would be pretty sweet. I
That
could see that.
even for that is still be the most obscure thing they've done.
Oh, sure, sure. But I'm like, it's a secret layer, whatever. Let's go for it. I'm down.
That's just for the coin.
But all right, dude. On that note, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media?
All right, if you want to actually read my content, App Trigger is the best place to get that. And actually, we are on Facebook, so if you want to stop by, give us likes and follows on Facebook, I would greatly appreciate that.
And you can find me everywhere at PowrDragn, PowrDragn. And I'm going to have a lot of stuff coming up for tons of things. The new Innistrad Remastered, Aether Drift, and I guess I get to tell you that I'm an ambassador for the next two sets for Magic. So there's that. But as always, wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome, and most importantly, be awesome to each other.